Hello and welcome to From the Be All End, the Burnley podcast. We're recording this before the Clarets somehow try to keep their survival hopes alive by winning at Spurs and hoping results go elsewhere in their favour. It's looking unlikely, but I'm showing my confidence by sticking £1 at 33-1 with a well-known bookmaker on Burnley staying up. So I think the way that works is I've given Bet Victor £1 and he will keep that £1, but we will see in a couple of weeks' time.
It's not a free bet this time, is it not?
It's not a free bet. This is my own money, my own £1 this time, Simon. That's how confident I am. That's the voice of Simon Evans, of course. He joins me alongside Paul Woodhouse, Justin Connolly and Chris Borden. Plenty to discuss, the Spurs game included. New kit deals, questions from our fans on social media as well. But let's start with the new kit deal, shall we? Let's start with that. It's probably one of the worst kept secrets in Burnley history, but the Clarets have announced a new technical partner in Castore, the Manchester-based Wirral-founded sportswear brand that also does quite a few other kits, including the England cricket team, Newcastle and Aston Villa. Lots and lots of rumours that we were moving to them after they bought Umbro. It's now been confirmed with the usual wanky press release describing things about synergy and brands and all of that kind of guff. But Simon, beyond the bullshit we get from these PR releases and news stories, there's something quite exciting sometimes about a changing kit supplier, isn't there? Because it's a fresh badge to kind of put alongside the Clarets crest. It's a fresh opportunity for new ideas. But there is a bit of a nagging about the issues around cost and quality of the Castore kits from clubs they currently work with, isn't there?
Apparently, yeah. I think Chris knows more about that than I do. I was looking forward to going into the bullshit in the press release. I thought that'd be. I mean, the important thing about a kit manufacturer is that their values align with the forever forward vision of Burnley Football Club. I think that's the most important thing. So if we have to pay 25 quid more for a Burnley top next season, it's important to know that extra cash you're putting out is to support their vision of aligning with Alan Pace's forever forward. So that's the important bit for me. No, there are issues with them. Yeah, there have been. I mean, Aston Villa one's the only one I know about really. But Chris, I think you were saying there's been trouble with a few other clubs, hasn't there?
I know, so you can look through their entire portfolio, really. But yeah, Wolves fans, Newcastle fans, Rangers fans, all sort of disappointed with the quality from a fan perspective. And there's been issues with the actual players' kit as well. So I say the Villa one's the most famous, isn't it? They all look like something out of a George Michael video from the mid-90s. When they have a bit of sweat, the wicking away technology doesn't appear to work wonderfully well on the Villas. But I think they looked to amend that, didn't they? But I could only speak from experience. I've probably mentioned before, I've had a couple of forays to Genoa on my travels, and I usually come back with a bit of kit. And last season they were in Castore, so I've got a couple of pairs of shorts, and my little one's got a training top, and we've had no issues at all with that. It's been spot on. But Genoa did go back to Kappa after 1 year, so I don't know what that says.
Yeah, interesting. It sounds like Chris's microphone might be made by Castore this week, so we apologise for the slight issues. Simon, you're going to pick a bit of issue there with
no. I just wanted to clarify, because I was sort of suggesting that Castore sort of has a similar slogan to Forever Forward, but actually, let's just be precise about these things, because as Alan Pace says, as organisations, we have similar values: the desire to push boundaries, a passion for innovation, and a mission to make athletes better. Castore's philosophy of better never stops is perfectly aligned with our vision as a forever forward-thinking football club. So,
better never stops. Just at your hour, fashionista. You're the guy who always whinges that none of this stuff is for you. Do you not feel that wearing a Castore kit next year is gonna push you on and make you a better athlete and make you think that better never stops? Or are you not sold on this marketing bullshit?
What does that even mean? Better never? It don't make sense, does it? Better never stops. Better never stops. That's not even English, is it? It's just 3 words. I mean, maybe that does perfectly align with Burnley's ownership's vision, that it makes absolutely no sense. To be honest with you, I don't care about this at all. The kits this season have been absolutely awful. The home kit, the away kit, the third kit, they were all terrible. So let somebody else have a go. I mean, quality issues aside, if you don't want to get ripped off, don't get into the business of buying replica football kits, because they're all a rip-off, every single one of them. If you want to support the club by buying a shirt, then go for it. But it's always going to be a rip-off. You're always going to be paying far too much for something that's not very good. So, like I say, I was really disappointed with this season's kits. The designs were deeply uninspiring. So I'm sort of looking for. I'm a bit like you. I'm looking forward to see what they do with it. Be interesting. Obviously they will be working in collaboration with the club on new designs. That doesn't fill me with a great deal of confidence or hope. But let's reserve judgment until we see what we get in the shop.
Yeah, Simon.
No. I was just making a V signal that I hope they bring the V back. But I don't know what they do with it. I don't know what they do with it. What would you fancy as a Burnley kit? What should they do?
Oh Lord, I think I've seen an unofficial MS Paint version that looks like a 5-year-old's been licking an iPad. For me, it has potential.
That's probably how they do it.
Exactly, it has potential. But the other thing that I'm quite intrigued by is that they've become our official technical partner. What else are they up to? Does actually just sewing a few kits together and making a design make you a technical partner, or are you just a kit guy? I don't know. Maybe this is a brave new world.
Yeah, I think that's like modern parlance now, isn't it? For the kit supplier is the technical, technical partner. But I mean, I think to be fair to Castore, I had a quick look today on some of the kind of Villa and Newcastle stuff. Some of their gear is actually pretty smart. Now, I'm not somebody who buys replica kits at full price. I'd much rather wait until they were 25 quid in the sale, like the last season's home kit currently is, I think. But some of their stuff is actually, to give them their due, some of the designs are quite nice. I quite like some of the Villa kits and things like that. I think Justin makes a good point. If you're in the business of buying football kits, you do have to stomach the fact that, these kits are getting more expensive. I think, judging on this year's prices for Castore supplied clubs, you're looking at 70 quid for the kind of fan shirt and upwards of 120 quid if you want the technical playing shirt, which I'm not quite sure why you would necessarily need that if you're just going to be sweating out last night's curry in a pub on a Saturday. But there you go. Maybe
that's just another load of bollocks, isn't it? 2 different versions. That's just bollocks, isn't it?
Big time.
What an insult that is.
Yeah,
I hate that sort of crap.
Yeah, 3 different versions of the same T-shirt.
I wonder if you're a better fan.
Do you really want to see the sprayed on athletic version on? I mean, like, say I'm an overweight gentleman. I'm not going to look great in one of these spray on things. You want something a bit more generous, don't you?
Generous.
The marquee version, something like that.
A big tent.
You basically want them like 90s kits, don't you? Like a tent.
Yes.
You can get away with a multitude of sins.
Yeah, definitely. Don't forget, if you don't want to buy a Burnley shirt, you can support your favourite Burnley podcast by going to our shop. We've actually this week had somebody buy the very first Teasdale Out T-shirt, I believe. So, they are. I'm not quite sure they're hot cakes, but they're flying out like something singular that flies out of a place. But we will be updating some designs. We did design our own kit for this season, so we are looking for a sponsor for our fan version, which will be nowhere near the 70 quid that you'll pay for the official version. But more on that when we get it.
It'll align with our values, though, definitely.
Yes, of course it will. Yeah, the crest will be upside down. There'll be kind of, a slight stain on one of the sleeves. It'll be all the values that us five hold true when it comes to
forever whinging. Yeah,
it's such a Sean Dyche word as well, isn't it? Aligned.
Yes.
Aligned.
Let's give a shout out to Richard Holstead, who is the From a Bill and podcast fan who's shelled out for a Teasdale Out t-shirt.
I love that. That's my favourite design. I think that is the one that I'm definitely going to get. So I can show.
Be quick. You better be quick.
Well,
you won't be there forever.
Limited edition.
Limited edition. Imagine if there's only ever one in the world. What a bargain Richard Holstead's got himself there. Obviously, with these things are shared with certain groups, and I wanted to pick up on the fan advisory board. Now, we're not here to kind of slate the members of the fan advisory board. I think that would be unfair, and I think it's the amount of abuse them guys get on social media is unwarranted. Yes, they are on this board, which is advised by the club and advised that the club are going to do it, whatever the weather. Seems to be the one. But I wanted to pick up on a comment that one of the members of the fan advisory board made, and that is, around. Somebody asked, are minutes available? We found the minutes. I think we've shared the minutes. They are hidden on the club's website, never publicised, but kind of hidden away like the accounts were. But this particular member, and I can't remember which member it was, said basically, agreed with somebody that they'd signed non-disclosure agreements. So they're not actually allowed to talk very much about what is discussed at the fan advisory board, even though they are fans representing the fans. And also that the minutes are kind of quite heavily redacted. Now, I just wanted to kind of throw this open, and Woody, I'm going to come to you first on this because I'm sure you're going to have some cutting comments about, how this kind of fits in with the forever forward and all this bullshit. But I mean, it seems a bit absurd that you're getting fans who are representing fans to sign non-disclosure agreements and then heavily redact and then not really publicise the minutes. So, like I say, we're not criticising the individual members. I think this is, symbolic of what the club is doing and hanging them out to dry and kind of getting them to face the flak on some of these things, isn't it?
Well, they're going to get hung out to dry, aren't they? And like you say, a fan advisory board that we don't know what they're necessarily advising on, and then we don't get told afterwards what they've been advised on. It just seems extremely petty, strange, weird, etc. to have these non-disclosure agreements. And then to redact the minutes, it's why is it there? It's just paying lip service to the idea, isn't it? Which is always the criticism of these fan advisory boards, but it's now quite apparent that is the case, particularly with ours. And like we say, that's not necessarily to the detriment of the people who are on the board, because we're quite positive that they're obviously trying their best, but in obviously very, very trying circumstances, which is not being able to necessarily say what's been going on in various meetings. So it's not necessarily fair on them, and it's not fair necessarily on the rest of the fan base either, I don't think. And I'd probably suggest that they quit doing that crap.
Yeah, and Simon, one point that I think, has to be made is that we're not expecting the fan advisory board to come out and tell us the colours of the three kits or anything like that. We understand that certain things, for commercial reasons, whatever, must stay under wraps. But it feels like any questions or concerns that they raise and the answers they're then given by Alan Pace, Russell Ball, and whoever else sits on that from the club's point of view is kind of like, you can't tell anybody kind of how hard you push. Now, I was speaking to a member of the fan advisory board when the season tickets came out, and he was very clear that they'd literally seen sight of the season tickets prices for about 20 minutes, had raised concerns, but it was clear the club, less than a week before the ticket prices were being announced, were never going to change. It looked like a foregone conclusion. Do you think that kind of divide and conquer that this is clearly doing among certain sections of the fan base is exactly what the club want, in terms of they can paint these people on the fan advisory board as the scapegoats for a lot of these decisions? Because we keep getting told, look, we extensively consult with the fans groups.
Yeah, it's a convenient one for the club, isn't it? They can turn around and say, we've run this past the fan advisory board without having to tell you what the fan advisory board said. And then the fan advisory board can't tell you what they said. So there could have been a load of dissent about something. For all we know, the fan advisory board people could have turned around and said, you really shouldn't be hiking up, pensioners' season tickets by 20-odd%. You shouldn't do that. They could have made a big stink about that, and the club could have turned around and said, yeah, all right, but we're doing it anyway. And we won't know. All we get told is they consulted with them. So it is convenient for the club in that sense. It's a fig leaf, really, isn't it? Is that the right word? But it's like, I think, they're not being the helpful to themselves either, the individuals on that, though, because I can't think of many issues that are more likely to get Burnley fans frustrated than knowing that some people know what the new kit looks like and they're not going to tell them. I mean, it's like, it's in terms of information, it's like knowing that company is going to be sacked or something, or that we're about to sign a player for 25 million, or that we might be wearing the V shirt, or we're wearing a round neck collar next season. People love this kind of information, and letting people know that you've seen the kit and no one else has done. And I can't possibly tell you what the new kit looks like because I've signed an NDA. I mean, you're going to get stick if you do that. You are. I mean, I agree with what you're saying, Greaves, that it's not the individuals that are the problem, but they did also have the option not to take part in this charade. They did. And it's these are minor issues at the moment, really. But in the future, I don't know. I don't have a good feeling about that. I certainly wouldn't be joining an organisation where you have to sign an NDA to be consulted. I mean, that's the kind of thing you do very much in the private sector. But not in a body that's supposed to be representing a community of fans. It's quite extraordinary, really.
Yeah, and Justin, we've talked, and I think I made the suggestion in one of my more angrier kind of podcasts that I feel the board should be held accountable twice a season. At the end of the season and midway through a season, and it should be an open forum. And we've talked about this lack of transparency. There does appear, for whatever reason at the minute, not to be much of a mobilisation of fan groups, does there? I mean, you think back to the kind of Teesdale out days and the Clarets Independent Supporters Association. I believe there are, talks between the individual supporters groups, but it's kind of, as Simon said, at the minute, it's minor issues, but you wonder what it would take for groups to mobilise or to form to kind of try and demand answers on some of these issues if they were to get bigger from a financial perspective or whatever, if things were to start going wrong again next season.
Yeah, I think that's right. But I also think that the fans are, I mean, the fans won't get upset about any of that stuff until it does become something significant, something that's, a threat. Alan Pace took to the pitch at halftime to do some sort of presentation. I think it was the under 21s or the Academy Player of the Year.
Academy Player of the Year, weren't it? Yeah.
And he got a pretty decent reception, I thought, from the fans. There's no sense from what I've seen, either online or actually at games, that Alan Pace has lost the confidence of the fans, and I think that might be as much to do with the sort of suppression of information as anything else. We talk about the fan advisory board. I don't really know anything about it. I don't really know what it exists to do, what it does do. And I think that's because, like, as has been pointed out by others, that they don't actually tell you anything about what goes on in these, which does make it a bit of a mockery. I can't blame the people who join it. If somebody said to me, "Do you want to join this thing?" I think I'd be more inclined to say yes than no, just so that, I'd rather be a member of it to know what's going on than sort of deny myself that opportunity. So it's another one of those areas, and we talk about this quite a lot on this podcast. It's another one of these areas where we don't really know what's going on. So it's quite difficult to form an opinion about, how it's actually working. As Simon says, they may have kicked back a lot about the season ticket prices. They may have done that, but we never find out about it. And you can see that pattern across a lot of areas of the club's communication with the fans. They don't want us to know. And we've talked about this sort of information vacuum that, speculation will grow in. And my worry really is that as we move forward and things do start to get a bit hairy, which we all suspect they might, financially at least, that drawbridge is going to be pulled up even more, isn't it? And we're going to know even less about what's going on, probably until it's too late for anybody to do anything about it. So yeah,
But what position are those people in then, Justin? Like, if they've gone
exactly
on that board and they're sitting there, and let's say there do start to come out some stories about, the debt being more than we thought, and we're struggling to make payment. Things start to go wrong. Let's hope they don't. But if things start to go wrong, and the club are turning around going, well, we discussed the financial situation with the fans, and they agreed we're on the right course. And they're not in any position to come out and deny that or anything. I mean, they could be used as a cover for that kind of stuff, couldn't they? And then what do they do? I mean, you would think in a situation like that, you'd start to see some of them resigning or something. But they could put people in really difficult positions if things do start to go pear-shaped.
Could be legal issues if they leave the fan advisory board and start talking about what they've discovered.
Well,
yeah. This is the thing, isn't it? It's kind of, the NDAs have been signed, and I think somebody else on Twitter, can't remember who it was, Ian Holstead, I think it was actually, a journalist saying he'd once been asked to sign an NDA, and he got the NUJ's kind of lawyers to look over it, and he took legal advice. It took him a couple of days to read through this NDA to work out, whether he should sign it and what were the ramifications and things like that. But this kind of information vacuum, Chris, and I don't want to kind of, you always get accused of being bitter because Alan Pace won't talk to you and all this lot. So I don't want to bring all that back up, which, is absolute nonsense, as we all know. But this information vacuum, it doesn't feel very kind of Burnley, does it? I mean, I know the clubs are often accused, and I was talking to your successor or one of your successors, Matt Scrafton, at the Burnley Express the other day, and he was talking about the Blackpool situation and the lack of information there. He wasn't comparing the two clubs, but, kind of information vacuums usually creates discontent. But are you surprised that Burnley fans aren't kicking off more about the lack of information, or have we just kind of got to the point where we had a good season last season, so there's still credit in the bank for the board and the leadership?
Very much the latter, I think, at the moment. But it's all very secret squirrel, isn't it? I've talked to someone at the weekend about Player of the Year awards. Now, granted, this it's all part of the community. Making money for the charity, etc. Blah blah blah. They make more money by doing the Player of the Year awards as they have done, than they did in the past. But I don't even know where it was. I didn't know it was on. Was it? Could you vote? I don't know. I didn't see anywhere on social media saying come and vote for your Player of the Year, etc. etc. We just got a tweet out of the weekend saying Sander Berg is Burnley's Player of the Year. He got presented it by last season's Player of the Year, Josh Cullen. The end. And it's like, well, hang on a minute, and you think about what used to happen, which was fabulous, where in the week you'd have all the supporters clubs present at Turf Moor, and they'd dish out all their various awards, and there was some really nice awards for they might have been named after Burnley fans that are no longer with us, who were part of these supporters clubs from for decades, etc. And it was just a really nice night. They could all have a bit of a chat with the manager and the players, and then you have this glitzy dinner type event at the end of the season where again people present could mingle with the players, and more often than not they ended up dancing till dawn in town somewhere. And it was I'd say I only went to a couple of those, but it was it was good fun. But this now, it's just all if you're not one of these corporates who paid whatever it is, a couple of grand for a table, you're not invited. You're not part of the in crowd sort of thing. And I don't know. There is so much. I can't just criticise the current board setup, because like I say, Mike Garlick we had something with Mike or John B as a pair when they were co-chairman. where at the end of the season we'd sit down and go through all the scenarios, etc. And remember, Mike one summer saying, basically telling us that they tried to bring Calvin Phillips in one time. They just couldn't get the deal done, etc. So there was always something would come out of these end of season sort of look backs with the chairman. Now, last time I was there, when Burnley were relegated 2 years ago, that didn't happen with the chairman. I've got to be honest, I've not paid that much attention whether it happened last summer. I don't think so, but
No.
probably won't happen again this summer. So it's not. I don't think it's healthy, but this is how they're choosing to operate. And I mean, what else do you do with the advisory board? It was, they brought this in. I mean, you knew, the sort of individuals who'd be involved previously. Your Tony Scholes, people like that, Beaky, folk like that, who were not always in the know about decisions being made in and around the club. They've gone the way of the FAB. It'd be nice to sort of have like a little, give them a few tidbits to offer up, to sort of say, oh, we've sat in on this meeting and we've come out of this meeting with, what things we can tell you, sort of thing, rather than a heavily redacted report, which tells you nothing basically.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, as with ever, we've had an open invite for Alan Pace or Russell both to come on, and that open invite is extended to any members of the fan advisory board who do want to come on and kind of tell us what gets discussed. And we're not asking you to break your NDAs or anything like that, but do get in touch if you do fancy a chat, either off the record, to give us some kind of information about the strength of feeling more than anything else. Because from talking to a couple of members, I know they were very, there was a big strength of feeling when it came to things like away fans in the home end and ticket prices, even though the club were quite keen not to give them much information on that. So we've got more open invites out than soft mick, haven't we, at the minute? Literally anybody who wants to go on the podcast can come on the podcast, whatever you want to discuss. Just Christ, just help us out over the summer, for God's sake. But I think there is a balance in there. I remember being at Clarets Trust Beer Festival at Morehouses and John B getting that match day programme out and going through asking fans who they should get rid of in the summer and who they should keep. And I think Michael Duff was up for the chop at that point, going back quite a few years. So there's obviously a bit of, you want it to be professional. You want it to be, that kind of fine balance and things like that. But yeah, maybe if you see Alan Pace in Tesco or on Yorkshire Street before a game, he'll give you a bit more information, but maybe not. Some information that has come out this week and I kind of piqued our interest a little bit is the TST 7v7 groups have now been announced. So this is the 7-a-side tournament in North Carolina, which Burnley men's team and a Burnley women's team. The men's team headed up by JJ Watt, and the women's team headed up by Keelia Watt, his wife. Just want to run through these club names, Pasha, see if any of you gents are quaking in your boots. The CONCACAF SC, Nata SC, and then probably the highlight from the men's Group B, Reggae Rovers. Reggae Rovers. That sounds interesting, doesn't it? What do we know about these?
Because we hate
Reggae
Rovers,
US and North American, Central American soccer. Do we know else about the Reggae Rovers? Anyone?
If I told you that, I'd kill you because I'm under an NDA.
Yeah.
Well, I'd sort of presumed that it'd be a team of sort of Jamaican former MLS players or something, but there is a bit of that. But from what I understand, it's various people who've knocked about soccer in the US, not particularly big name players, but there are a few Jamaican players in there as well. And the CONCACAF, I think, CONCACAF is like the UEFA for North and Central America and the Caribbean. So I think that's players from various countries in that background. But there are a mixture of players who look like they've been like decent pros and some ones who perhaps were semi-pros or mates of somebody. I don't know. I don't know what the point of it all is, though. I mean, there's
maybe we're going to see Dane Richards appear for the Reggae Rovers and get his revenge for his less than illustrious Burnley career, which I think was just a single appearance, weren't it, for Burnley?
But he was the fastest player on FIFA.
Well, that's all that matters, Chris, isn't it? You know, as long as you've got a YouTube reel and they're pretty good on Champ Manager. The women's group, perhaps slightly more less kind of select 11 or select 7. NC Courage, which I presume is North Carolina Courage, Soccerhead FC, which sounds like some YouTube team, and then the Tampa Bay Sun FC. We've joked about this. I think we're going to try and get you and Woody Simon over to North Carolina to be boots on the ground and watch this winner takes all $1 million tournament on our behalf, so we don't have to. But it is kind of, somebody tweeted us to say that they'd been at in Kentucky, and they were talking to a group of people who were not soccer fans, but as soon as they mentioned Burnley, they mentioned JJ Watt. We talk about kind of brand building, Woody, and you know, getting it out there, and we've talked about JJ's influence quite a bit. This is another one of those kind of pieces of the jigsaw to a certain extent, isn't it? Yeah, we're having a laugh, and they're you know, the team names sound a bit wanky, but actually getting JJ and Kaylee out there and playing could be quite interesting for American audiences, couldn't it? If Burnley is the only recognisable or one of the only recognisable teams in them divisions.
Wrexham are in it, aren't they?
Exactly. And that's another thing as well, is that there is all that interest around Wrexham's interest around JJ Watt. And again, like we say a lot of the times, it's not about us necessarily. It's not for us to be watching. You know, it's to, you know, get that awareness and to get fans who wouldn't necessarily be, you know, be open to watching Burnley games necessarily, to go and just have a look at this, have a family day out and see what's going on. And they'll go for the purposes of JJ Watt. They'll have no idea whether he's any good or not. It won't make a blind bit of difference. They'll get slightly tipsy, slightly sunburnt, and they'll watch the Reggae Rovers and they'll come back thinking that soccer business is quite good. And Burnley aren't too bad either. So, you know, in that respect, can't really fault it.
Good.
I won't be saying that if you send me for 4 fucking days.
I mean, I think me, Justin, and Chris would happily volunteer to go over to North Carolina if we can sell a few more of them Teasdale Out t-shirts.
Yeah.
We'll be on that plane. I'm still doing my kick-up challenge to see if I can join one of the teams. I'm hoping to kind of get better than JJ Watt. But yeah, Simon, I think it's fair to say, to be convinced.
There's an awful lot of soccer goes on in America in the summer. Absolutely tons of it. It is the peak of the soccer season is the summer. And you've got the Copa America starting in June, like a week after this 7-a-side kickabout tournament. You know, and the USA are in it, and Mexico and Brazil and Argentina, and it's on at the same time as the Euros. You've got basically about 5 weeks in America this summer where in the morning you wake up, there'll be Euro games on, 2 or 3 Euro games on. That'll finish like late afternoon, American time. And then the Copa America will start here live in the NFL stadiums and stuff. Absolutely tons of it. At the same time, MLS will be going on with Messi, and there's a Leagues Cup competition as well. Absolutely tons of it.
Olympic soccer, of course, as well. It's the Olympics this summer.
Yeah, the women's team's a really big deal over here. The US women's national team playing in the Olympics. Absolutely right. All this is going on, and this is a bit of fun in North Carolina, but it's gone on ESPN. ESPN just keep on like making lots of really weird decisions about what to broadcast. So I don't know. Does it do any good? I mean, honestly, I do struggle with this whole branding thing that it sort of benefits the club as a whole, because yeah, some people, you know, I mean, it doesn't do any harm for more Americans to have heard of Burnley, and to associate it with JJ Watt, but what does that actually bring the club? I don't know. I mean, Woody's more of a sort of branding guru than I am, for sure. So I don't know, but I look at it and I think, well, are they going to buy a few shirts? I mean, the profit that you make on a shirt, if they do sell Burnley shirts in America, and you don't see many of them, I have to say, but if you do, I think the club, what do they make? About a tenner out of each one or something like that? I don't know. It's not a lot that actually goes to the club, so I don't know what the play is at all with it really. But it's it's a bit of fun. It's a bit of fun, I suppose. I'm not going to North Carolina to watch it. I'm not.
Solo trip.
I know. I've just opened up the media access inquiry form.
Just get him signed up. He's been miserable now because he spent last weekend watching cars go around in a fucking circle.
Oh,
so he'll get over that. He'll get over that with some of the crap.
Talking about weird things that ESPN televised, traffic.
Fast traffic, yeah. Let's move on. We have had a couple of questions. We put a call out for questions because we thought we'd just kind of have a bit of fun. Now, this is a question that's come in. I think Andy Barton sent this one in. The pod squad are in a penalty shootout. Which order do you take the penalties and why? Chris, did you say you volunteered to go first? You're getting your penalty out of the way, are you?
I never miss one.
Oh, you want that guy? You want that guy first? First hand up.
No. Bloody hell. We went to a penalty shootout when I was in year 4. Chorley Football Club, Victory Park, 3 apiece after extra time, and I told the manager, I'm having one of them. Put mine away, and we win the shootout. Jobs are good. Never took another one. That's
it. You've never missed, but you've only taken one.
Exactly. Never missed.
Anybody got a preference for taking the 5th one? Because the 5th one's a weird one, isn't it? Because if Chris does miss and completely fucks our penalty shootout up, if you're 5th, you might not take.
Woody's got to go first.
Yeah.
Because Woody's got only one approach he's going to take to taking a penalty, and he's going to steam down the middle straight at it. And try and do. Remember? Anyone remember West Ham's Ray Stewart?
Yeah.
Woody's going to go for that one. With that one, nerves don't come into it because he'll be that. His heart will be pumping that much just to get to the penalty spot. So there's not going to be any nerves or any worries or any cute little stammers on the way. It's either going straight through the middle and keeper diving out at way of it, or
Sean
it's in Rose
Dyche. Sean Dyche for Chesterfield.
That's what you want. That's what you want. You want a Sean Dyche.
Yeah, even on this, you can get a Dyche mention in, can't he?
He loves it, Johnny. He really loves it. They'll all be playing Chris Borden bingo on Up the Clarets.
Yes.
He's got Sean Dyche for a line. Justin, how's your penalty take?
Proper Brexit penalty. Yeah.
I can't remember ever taking a penalty in any sort of.
What?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, me and Simon played a lot of football together when we were kids.
We did.
And Simon was a centre half for a reason. So I'm having him going.
Reason, to be fair.
I'm having him going second. So I think you, Greavesy, you're probably the only one of us who still plays football on a regular basis. I think third is a key spot because that's when things start to get interesting,
get twitchy, yeah.
So
do you want me to go third then? Do you want me to?
Greaves is our aggressor. He's still going in his 40s and
just about in his 40s. Come on.
I'm going fourth, hoping that Woody will rescue me.
Yeah, I like that. I'm happy with third. Yeah, I'd take third. I think third's all right.
Key spot third. That's when it all gets exciting.
Did you see the who's just come up? Is it Bromley have just come up from the National League? Their captain put on an EFL. He was taking the what would have been the winning penalty, ended up being the winning penalty. He apparently put an EFL captain's armband on rather than National League one. Stepped up, smirked at the goalkeeper who told him, "You know which way you're going. I know which way you're going." And he said basically, I don't know how he did because I didn't. Dispatched the penalty to win promotion for Bromley into League 2 for next season. I quite like that kind of shithousery.
Yeah,
he's worn it all season apparently.
He what, Chris?
He's worn it all season apparently. This
has he?
He's ex-Millwall, isn't he? He's had. I was only reading about it. I was just reading an Oldham fan that was just moaning and saying, if you look at Oldham, one of the founder members of the Premier League, and Bromley, who are now above Oldham in the football pyramid.
Shocking.
And famous for, what was it, David Bowie's hometown, basically.
I
I think we could do a Gareth Southgate, though. I mean, there's a risk with it, but we could bring on Andy Jones of the Athletic and Sasha Tavolieri with like 2 minutes to go when they haven't had a kick in the game at all, and then give them the crucial pens to take.
Yeah,
could do.
Then they can get all the blame. Yeah,
I volunteer to go.
I like that. Yeah,
I think it was Steed Malbronk famously used to take his boots off during a penalty shootout, so he couldn't take one. I seem to remember that Fulham being in a penalty shootout and him, or maybe when he was at Spurs, maybe I don't know, but he apparently took his boots off. And the manager was coming around looking, and he basically just faced away from the manager and took his boots off. You know, like a dog does when they know they're in trouble. He doesn't want to make eye contact. That was Malbronk. I hope it was Malbronk now. We're not live with him. But,
exactly what I was going to say.
If not, we've kind of fucked that. Player of the season. We winced about the Player of the Season awards and things like that in terms of us not knowing about it. And I think the first I saw of it was when somebody posted in our group. But Sander Berg seems to be the kind of overwhelming choice of a lot of people. Guys, anyone go for someone other than Sander Berger for Player of the Year?
I might go for Dara O'Shea, actually.
Yeah.
Just because of for the fact that he started off very, very shaky, he was at least part of the reason why we suffered so badly in those early months of the season. But the way he's improved over the season has been very, very impressive. To the point where we're not really talking about mistakes. We're not really talking about how he's got, the defensive mistakes have cost us a game. So I'm gonna go for him. I mean, I think Sander Berger's had a great season. I think he was probably the best acquisition in the summer. But just for the improvement that Dara O'Shea's made, he's won a lot of people around, hasn't he? We were quite critical of him early on, but I don't think any of us worry about that too much anymore. I think he's cemented his place in the team, and he's come on in leaps and bounds, I think.
Interesting. Any other recommend? Anyone? Would it look like you were perhaps agreeing with Dara O'Shea? Is that right? Have I judged your mannerisms correct?
Exactly. No, slight windy pops, but I was agreeing. There's and it could still wind up being our leading goal scorer, so it could lead all our stats. And if that's the case, then you've got to give it him. Really, it also goes to show what a shit season we've had. But there is it.
Very backhanded compliment. Chris, Simon, anyone other than O'Shea or Sander Berger?
Well, I think the fact it's one of those two, isn't it? I think it's Berger, to be honest, but I totally agree with what Justin said about Dara O'Shea and the fact that there's nobody else you could possibly bring into contention, really, is there? I mean, unless you're getting really patronising and say, well, Vitinho tried really hard, but there's the only award I ever won in team sport was that's the guy most improved player.
That's the guy who turns up for training every week, even if they're not getting a game in it. Clubman of the Year, I think we used to call it at Burnley Belvedere.
Yeah, that's the one, Clubman.
Using the fat lad, weren't it? And I have been consistent with that a couple of times.
That's a bit cruel on Vitinho, isn't it? But who else could it be? I mean,
Odegaard, maybe?
Possibly.
Young player.
Young
player of the year is Odegaard for sure, yeah.
Definitely. We did have a question about Odegaard, and we perhaps will pick this up on. Let's pick this up on Sunday, perhaps. But we'll chat about Odegaard on Sunday. Let's see him tear Spurs' defence apart. Get Emerson Royale, who had an absolute nightmare on Sunday, not for the first time playing at left back, I think. We do go to Spurs on Saturday. Let's just end with that. Spurs away tomorrow. I jokingly mentioned in the intro that we were still alive. Vincent Kompany used the words, "This team is still alive." I think it's been poked by a stick by a passerby to see if there is any life in it. I think that's about the level of aliveness. But interestingly, the Nottingham Forest appeal failed. It does bring into contention the fact that, if miracles happen, and we know that miracles can happen, of course, we're talking around the anniversary of the Orient game where, a minor miracle did happen to keep Burnley in the Football League. But Chris, we are still alive. Mathematically, we're not dead. You wouldn't have thought that in January or February or even as late as early March, would you? I mean, to get to here and still be within a shot, it'd be still a slither. is quite remarkable, isn't it?
Well, only because of the points deductions. I mean, rightly so. I will add, if you've breached the rules, you're rightly punished. And I, for the life of me, I don't know why Forest appealed. If you're taking away, if they got 4 points. If they 1 point back, you're basically saying, crack on and break the rules, because it's only a win, isn't it? Or less. That you're risking there. There would be no incentive not to break the rules. So it's you crack on and buy who you want and spend what you want. But no, it is what it is. I mean, I've been saying for absolute months, but I think Burnley are relegated, and should Burnley perform an absolute miracle, and it would be a miracle, would be staying up with the least amount of points it's taken to stay up, and it'd be just a blip. But the one thing that comes into play this week, Forest play Chelsea at 5 o'clock, don't they? I think at 5:30 Saturday. So Burnley, whatever happens, Burnley can go to Spurs and produce a Billy Hamilton inspired miracle, and somehow get a result at a ground where we barely get over the halfway line, never mind score. It's then the pressure is ramped right up on Forest, and against the Chelsea team, it seems to have come to, and we've got Cole Palmer's in great nick, etc., etc. We've said it for how many games, how many weeks. Yeah, you just got to give yourself an opportunity, give yourself a chance. We've said week after week, game after game. Last week against Newcastle, just go out there, somehow find a way to beat a Spurs team who are in a wretched run of form, not scoring goals, and like I say, the pressure is. Oh, can you imagine it? If they all turn around in the tunnel at the City Ground, oh my word, they've only gone and won Burnley. The 2 points within us, and we've got to go there next week. Now that's squeaky bum time, isn't it? So that's the only thing that gives me any semblance of hope. But we all know what happens to teams who are in poor runs of form and struggling to score, etc., etc. It's like Anthony. I still can't believe we're the only team that's conceded a bloody goal to Anthony. It's frightening.
Yeah. And would it, I mean, I've always thought that if it goes to the last game of the season, we stay up. We've obviously got to factor Luton into the equation as well. But do you share Chris's optimism, blind as it may be, that, we could get a result and that does put pressure on Forest? Or are you, too long in the tooth as a Burnley fan to know that everything goes to shit in the end?
Well, looking at some stats, and we're winless in our last 10 against Tottenham, drawn 1, lost 9.
Shut up.
But we won in 1974, 3-2 White Hart Lane. Tottenham have lost just one of their last 22 Premier League games against sides starting the day in the relegation zone, 1-14, drawn 7, though that defeat did come against Burnley in February 2022. And the last time Spurs lost 5 in a row were when Ozzy was manager in 1994. And because I'm a bit of a tea leaf type, I'm quite into numerology. All these various 4s and whatnot and all these divisibles, I'm forecasting a win on Saturday. Absolutely no problem.
Oh, it makes you think, doesn't it?
Makes you think, exactly.
Never a better time to play them.
Yeah.
It makes you think.
Yeah.
I was going to ask for predictions, but I'm still haunted by Simon's Burnley 4, Chelsea 1 from earlier.
I'm just thinking about what Chris was saying about that Billy Hamilton inspired win, because that's one of my favourite. I weren't there, but it was one of my favourite nights listening to Radio Lancashire. Was that 4-2 win in the cup and 2 own goals, and I'm thinking who could be the Graham Roberts this Saturday, and Chris has already mentioned him, Emerson Royale. Go and have if you want to put a quid on something, Greaves, go and see how much there is for 2 own goals for Emerson Royale.
imagine.
Lyle Foster can do a Billy Hamilton going down right wing and putting him in, and for Emerson Royale to slide in at the back post.
Yeah,
exactly.
We shall see.
Who's going to play the highest line? That's the point. Yeah.
I think we're just going to be playing both on the halfway line, aren't we? That's the thing. It's going to line up along the halfway line and some kind of weird British Bulldog kind of game. But let's leave it there. Let's come back and reconvene after the Spurs game. I don't know whether it's going to be a kind of jolly occasion or it's going to be 99.9% misery. T-shirts still available, of course. But we'll come back. Thank you very much for all your input, chaps. It could all be over by this time tomorrow. We're recording this at 8:30 on Thursday. You're listening on Friday. It could all be over by this time. Match of the day comes on Saturday. We hope not. We'll be back on Monday with a debrief, whatever the weather. Until then, enjoy your weekends and up the Clarets.
Jimmy McElroy to Upton. Go.